So, anyway, going into the Belmont, there was all this anticipation it was going to be, people wanted a coronation. They wanted this big to do about it, and record crowd there. The word had gotten out that Secretariat was just right now was kind of unbeatable, and there was only six horses in that race, five or six horses in that race. It wasn't a full field, and so Secretariat drew the rail. He was in the number one stall. I think he actually loaded into the two stall, but he was the number one horse. He was on the rail. Sham got the outside post, and when the bell rang and the gates opened, Secretariat and Sham took off like a shot, and I mean it was like they were fired out of a cannon. There was a couple horses that stayed with them for about the first half of the lead into the first turn. By the time they reached the beginning of the first turn, it was the two of them side by side, Secretariat on the rail, Sham on his outside, running in the two slot. They went head to head at a breakneck pace. Now, I read you off those quarters from the Kentucky Derby. I think I remember seeing the first quarter mile on the race. I'd have to look at it again. Was just over 22 seconds, I think, which is just flying. They did the first 3/4 of a mile, which means they were halfway through the race, at 109 and 4/5. That is like sprinter speed. That's what? That's 3/4 of a mile. That's 2, 4, 6 furlongs. A furlong is an eighth of a mile, in case you were wondering. That's a sprinter distance. That's what young horses start out doing just to get their legs under them. They do 6 furlongs. That's the kind of races they run, finishing the race, doing them in 109, 110, 111. That's about an average 6 furlong race. Well, they were only halfway done. They just went all out. And everybody around, Bill Nack was there. He is cursing Ron Turcotte at this point, saying, "What are you doing? You're going too fast. You're going to burn the horse out. You're gonna kill a horse." Because generally the Belmont is run at a slower pace until the end, and then they sprint home. Well, they were sprinting all the way around, and it was Sham and Secretariat. Sham got ahead in front. Secretariat switched his lead foot, because they do that throughout the race. They'll switch their lead foots, their lead hoof, so that they don't get tired on one lead and one not leading, so it doesn't wear them out. They're taught to do that. Some horses do it naturally. Some have to be taught. And he switched leads and went to his left lead, which was his dominant lead, and just started creeping away from him. Just going a little bit further and a little bit further. He starts pulling away from Sham. And everybody's watching this going, "Are you kidding? There's no way he can keep that up." And the track announcer has this absolutely wonderful track call to this thing. He points out that it's pretty much and by the way, they've left all the rest of these horses, the two of them, like 10, 12 lengths behind them. Like, they're just running away from everybody. Both of them. And you can hear the disbelief in the track announcer's voice, because he's saying, they're Secretariat's pulling away now. He's widening. The lead is increasing. Make it 10, 12. And he's talking lengths. 10, 12 lengths. That's a lot of distance. And he makes this call. He goes, it looks like he's opening now. The lead is increasing. Make it 10, 12. Secretariat is widening now. And he makes this line, which gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. He is moving like a tremendous machine. And at that point, he was almost 15 lengths in front of Sham, who was, at this point, dropping back to the pack. The pack was catching up to him. but they weren't catching Secretariat. And he gets around the corner and he's got almost a 20 length lead on everybody, and he just keeps going. Like, he doesn't slow down. He ends up winning the race by 31 lengths. Okay? You don't do that at the Belmont. You don't win the Belmont by 31 lengths. It just isn't done. And not only that, he didn't just break the track record, he set a world record for the 1.5 miles, which is the longest race of the Triple Crown. It's 1.5 miles. He knocked 2 3/5 seconds off the track record, and in the process set the world record for that distance on dirt. And it was such a stunning, unbelievable performance that nobody knew what quite to make of it at first. The former football commissioner, a fellow named Pete Rozelle, he was one of the founding members of the league, one of the main architects of the merger in 1970, said he was watching the race, and as they were coming down the stretch, I felt somebody grab my ankle. I thought somebody had passed out from all the excitement. And he looked down, and he was standing on the table and has no memory of getting up there. Jack Nicklaus, one of the greatest golfers of all time, was sitting at home in his den by himself watching the race. And as the horse turned for home, he was down on his knees, pounding on the floor and crying. And he went up to a broadcaster who was at the race named Woody Brune. And he said, Woody, you were at that race. He's like, I was at home watching it, and I had this tremendous reaction to it, crying and pounding on the ground and whatnot. He's like, why? Why did I react that way? And Woody Brune said something very sage, because that's what Woody Brune did. He said very sage things. He was a very old school, poetic sportscaster. A very poetic and much smoother and more polite version of Howard Cosell. And he said, Jack, don't you understand? He's like, in your profession, you've searched all your life for perfection. It's like, at the Belmont, you saw it. And you recognized it. And a very profound thing to say. But that's how people reacted. It was such a big deal. And it just set off this Secretariat hysteria. I mean, he actually got signed by a talent agency and found himself in the same talent agency as Sophia Loren and Elvis Presley. It's a horse. The hell? So that's, with everything that was going on in the country, Vietnam being as ugly as it was, and the Watergate scandal being as ugly as it was getting, this was like a welcome, recess from all that bullshit. Everybody could just kind of focus on it. You got the celebrity who was kind of scandal-proof. You know, he was a horse. He didn't talk. He didn't cuss people out. He didn't cheat on his girlfriend. You know, didn't get arrested for boozing or drunk driving or anything like that.